The point is, when you embark on this path, you start swimming against the current. You become better and people sense this, and many are annoyed by it. Against the backdrop of your success, their weaknesses become more apparent. Those who are in the dark really dislike those who strive for the light. Hi, I'm Gary. I've been practicing abstinence with varying success since 1993, that is for 30 years. At first I managed to do this with varying success, then more and more successfully, until I reached a stable plateau. In this video, I'm gonna share my experience with abstinence and talk about its benefits, as well as the challenges you may encounter along the way. A few words about the challenges. In the initial stages of your abstinence practice, when it becomes a constant part of your life, you'll face rejection from many, if not all of your friends. Your companion will reject you, in a way you'll become an outcast. People will hate you, make fun of you, and you'll lose the association with women part of your campaign, surely. In short, you will lose a significant circle of social connections. Your friends will joke about you behind your back. You will not be loved, but instead envied and become an object of annoyance for many. And it'll be painful. I don't want to dwell on this, as it won't last long. Eventually everything will change, and all will be the opposite. Now on to the benefits. Your internal intuition will increase and you will gain additional energy. You will feel that God is guiding you, you will be healthier and age more slowly. You will develop the ability to meditate and acquire new skills. You'll feel that you have an influence on people and they'll start listening to you. New abilities will emerge and your memory will improve. Overall, you will stand out significantly from others. There are many more benefits, but I am just mentioning them based on my own experience. Your personal magnetism or sexual attractiveness will greatly increase. But it is not all that simple. There are important nuances that I'll discuss further in the video. I want to share my story, how I started practicing abstinence 30 years ago. The stages I personally went through, from rejection and contempt to all the aforementioned benefits. It was around 1993. I was a young 22-year-old guy. I had friends from school, we had our own campaign, and we would hang out with girls and have fun. Occasionally, there would be sexual encounters. I was not confident in myself, and I can't say that I was successful with women at that time. Also, I was a decent-looking guy. I had difficulties in relationships with women I liked, because something inside me blocked me from such kind of associations. I don't know why. To approach a girl I liked, I had to put in tremendous effort. I had to adjust my mood to raise it up, which by default was under zero. Sometimes I managed to enter into relationship with girls, but they were very short-lived and used to end quickly. My internal pride and self-respect didn't allow me to chase after girls. I understand you guys, especially those of you who are currently in your 20s or 30s. It's not easy to restrain your sexual energy. It seems impossible to resist it. Sometimes it burns like a fire and consumes you from within. So I found a way out of this situation for myself through the abstinence. Although back then it was referred to as practicing yoga. It was a matter of life or death for me. If sexual energy is not realized, it starts to destroy you from within. It destroys your self-esteem. It destroys everything. It brings you into depression and even suicidal thoughts. Well, in short, I started abstaining. I started practicing yoga because at that time internet just appeared and there was neither YouTube, no Facebook, no Instagram, just nothing. Neither there were groups of people practicing semen retention. People simply practice yoga, which implied abstinence as well. Well, for me it was some kind of salvation. Okay, in the very beginning it was not strict abstinence. I just heard about this practice and it was practiced by yogis. It was called celibacy or brahmacharya. I started practicing this and from time to time I was able to abstain for several months. And then I would failed and this circle continued on and on again. And it took many years to reach a stable plateau. I stopped attending parties with my friends and started distancing myself from them. They were very annoyed by this. I became a bad guy for my friends. Essentially, I lost my circle of companionship, and it was painful for both me and them. But for them it was even more painful. Since I was always an active participant in our group, we would spend time together, socialize with girls, and invite them into our parties. And losing me created some kind of void in our campaign. My friends did not understand me and began to see me as an enemy. We stopped communicating, and with some of them forever. With some we resumed communication only after 10 years, when mutual grievances were forgotten and the passions had subsided. I remained alone, or rather I changed my circle of companionship, and I made my new acquaintances with whom I practiced yoga. The point is, when you embark on this path, you start swimming against the current. You become better and people sense this, and many are annoyed by it. Against the backdrop of your success, their weaknesses become more apparent. Those who are in the dark really dislike those who strive for the light. These people have not found themselves. They float along, controlled by their vices. They don't want to change, so envy and jealousy toward you arise. They want to bring you down to their level. And this was painful, and it was the first stage I had to go through. A little later I started working in a big company. It was a network of telephone stations, and I worked in the power supply department. Our task was to convert the AC power coming from the city into the DC lower voltage power and to distribute it to the telephone stations. Our department consisted only of men, but we interacted with representatives from the other departments, mainly composed of women, and there were many of them, of different ages. We were often called to their departments because everything depended on the power supply, and we constantly monitored all the facilities. Everyone knew us, and the women would frequently invite us to various parties they organized. The women co-workers were very friendly with us. And usually many of my colleagues, men from our department, had their mistresses in our huge organization. And I had my own girlfriends too. Sometimes the parties would continue and move to someone's apartment, and it would continue there, accompanied by alcohol consumption, dancing, feasting, and intimacy with these girlfriends. But everything abruptly stopped when I started abstaining. At work I could not just break up with them, because you have to meet with these people every day. So I started telling people about my path of yoga and abstinence. And then everyone said that I was an adept and silently placed me in that category. There was one adult guy, about 40 years, a Baptist. He also did not communicate with anyone, but if someone approached him, he would start talking about God. Well, they defined me in that category. They avoided me, didn't invite me to any parties anymore. But at the same time they respected me as I looked as a weird guy for them. And there was one girl, my peer. She worked as an electrician in the telephone stations we serviced. She was very attractive, tall, slim, with long legs. Many guys were infatuated with her. She looked exactly like in Billy Gibbons' video clip, very similar to her. Well, I fell for her, but I had been already abstaining then, and I decided that no matter what happened, I would not show her signs of attention. And when we used to meet by chance at work, I passed by, I ignored her, pretended that I did not care about her, because somewhere inside me I realized that it would be difficult for me to achieve her. I really like her, and when I used to see her, I got lost and wanted to leave as quickly as possible, because I felt uncomfortable in her presence, because she impressed me much. And so time passed. I avoided her in every possible way. And this caused the opposite effect. There was very strong sexual tension between us. The lady began to look for a meeting with me. She began to show me all sorts of attention, because I stood out from the rest, because I did not pay her any attention. Well, in short, she began to aggressively pursue me, and the more aggressively she pursued me, the more stupor I got. Well, to somehow save the face, I began to pretend that she was not my type, despite she occupied all my thoughts. In general, we lived in this mode for several years. She pursued me, and I ignored her. I couldn't muster up the courage to approach her. And then I quit that job, and she stayed to work there. But Trick is, I could not forget her. She was one of the best sexy women I have seen in my life, at least as it seemed to me at that time. All other girls were losing to her in comparison. In general, I already worked in another campaign for a couple of years, and there was a male team, there were no women or rather attractive women. A strong imprint of that woman remained in my mind, and I could not forget her. Even I tried to do it. And I began to look for a reason to visit my old campaign. In general, I gathered my courage, came to my old job as if to visit acquaintances, and casually met her there and gave her a compliment. And then my former colleague, who was much older than us, introduced me to her. And that same day, after finishing work, she and I went to the park to a cafe, and then it got dark. There were benches in the park. And we pounced on each other like hawks. In short, it all ended in violent intimacy. With this woman, I broke my abstinence practice. Then I began to realize that I was becoming dependent on this woman. I began to overwhelm the balance of significance. So to speak, I kinda became attached to her. This started to stress me out. I didn't want to run after her. It went against my proud nature. Our relationship has deteriorated. I was painful. I did not want to lose her, and at the same time I didn't want to lose self-respect and bend under her, since at that time I had no experience in such relationships. It was a kind of dead end for me. I even tried to correct the situation. She felt she had become very important to me. I became dependent of her, and I could not accept this. I felt like I was gonna lose something very important to me, my independence and freedom. I felt uncomfortable from this, and I realized that it was better to leave the game. And then I found the strength in myself and broke off this relationship. In general, I felt then I had achieved this woman, and now I need to go away and continue the practice of abstinence. Otherwise, she will turn me into the weakling. Then, years later, I analyzed this situation. After all, at first, I was an object of desire for her. I did not make any efforts to achieve her. I simply practiced abstinence. Unconsciously, I sort of created an attractive facade around myself, like an independent youth who looked at her proudly and did not hit on her. I looked good because I was pumping up in the gym, and this all added interest to my person. And the side effect of my practice was, unconsciously, I hooked her with my charms. And this led to the fact that I stopped abstaining and began to splash out sexual energy with this lady. By hooking up with this woman, I lost control, lost my purpose, and lost myself. Because if you abstain in order to be successful with women, you need to improve your communication skills with women, which was not my goal in itself. Later, as I practiced abstinence, I began to get a thrill from the feeling of control over sexual energy, and this gives me a higher sense of satisfaction than sex, which is insatiable and enslaves you. Why am I telling all this? The practice of abstinence definitely increases your status in the eyes of women, provided that with abstinence you work on yourself to improve your masculine attractiveness or increase your social status. There is an intense sexual tension. Your sense of independence enhances your attractiveness. Women are very good at reading your interest in them. They know when you're faking it and quickly lose interest in you. But you should not overestimate abstinence and think that it will increase your attractiveness. If you are not attractive as a man and do not work on yourself, women won't be interested in you, even if you are a champion in abstinence. As soon as you start thinking that practicing abstinence will help you with women, everything is lost. It will be extremely difficult for you to continue to abstain. The very motivation to abstain in order to attract women is already a form of vaginal addiction. Therefore, for successful abstinence, you must clearly draw a line beyond which you won't cross, never, under any circumstances. You won't think about women and you won't have sex with them. Then this installation will work, and it will be easier for you to abstain. It won't happen that you'll abstain and attract women for sex. It does not work that way. Either you ignore all women or you'll break down under the influence of sexual pings coming from them. And your self-confidence will fall and you will lose energy and turn into a vegetable, because women consume your vital energy, your urges. You must abstain until the last minute and not think about sex. Facing God or yoga helps a lot in abstinence. Without such a motivation, it's difficult to abstain or even impossible. But I'll talk about this in another video about sublimation and raising self-esteem. You need to understand your purpose and motives, why you are abstaining. What do you want to get as a result? If your goal is self-development and spiritual practice, when your practice has been stable for several years, then all abstinence bonuses will open. The main thing is to reach a plateau when the sexual desire completely submits to you. From this level, sexual energy accumulates and sublimates, which leads your consciousness to spiritual growth, and all the benefits of the abstinence are achieved. But this will come with age, when hormones stop pinging in you. The waves on the lake of your mind calm down, and it becomes clean and transparent, and this will come with experience and years. It is just a matter of time. If you abstain in order to increase your self-esteem, attractiveness, and have success with women, so that you could then stop abstaining and enjoy life to the fullest, and start a family maybe, that's also possible, and many do just that. But here you also need to work on the quality of your abstinence, its motivation and your development, in order not only attract the opposite sex, but also remain an object of attraction. It means even having met a woman of your life, you have to go on with abstinence. There is no way. Or have sex only from time to time, keeping it under control, so as not to lose control of yourself, and this is not as simple as it seems. And after all, you need to find a woman who will be like-minded with you. Everyone chooses their own motives based on their own preferences. I practiced abstinence for many years, so when worthy girls candidates appeared, I didn't take advantage of these opportunities. Because I was already used to being alone, I began to get a buzz from it. I no longer wanted to change my life. I channeled my sexual energy into self-improvement, such as playing sports and growing spiritually. The means to achieve goals have become the goal. I learned to find the joy of life within myself, like Buddha. After all, we suffer from our desires. Everything is within us. Why chase temporary, illusory happiness? Once I reached a stable plateau of abstinence, I had a lot of energy. I started doing martial arts and even had my own martial arts club. We did boxing, kickboxing, MMA there. We had a ring and we would gather there and fight. And we sometimes fought in the ring every day for several hours. Moreover, there were women and even women's group in our club. And from experience, I can say that nothing sublimates sexual energy and raises self-esteem like martial arts. But I have a separate video about sublimating in which I discuss this topic and give working methods for boosting your confidence. It will be available in the link above. See you in the new video. Thank you for watching. Thank God and good luck to everyone. Bye.